Chapter 19, New Horizons. Etude worked diligently with Helm and the other scientists trying to recreate the great fire crystal that her grandfather had once constructed with the aid of the Space Brothers. Still, she harbored conflicting emotions and felt that there was a possibility of Helm using it for his greedy, selfish purposes. However, the adrenaline in her body surged as they worked on the crystal. She had never had such a challenge. She thought of Quetzal and much of the technology that he and his associates had introduced her to. It was more, though, this knowledge than the fragments of information that had been fed to her secondhand from her father, while still no more than a child, that triggered her every procedure in the lengthy process of this monstrous task. Helen basically stayed out of her way, sensing that his presence would intimidate her. She had not forgotten the first day she had arrived in the new lab, and was cautious in what information she would reveal when he was in her presence. The other scientists marveled at her expanse of knowledge, and when asked how she had learned of it, she would just smile and say, "A friend." This fire crystal was really created as opposed to the original fire crystal, which was natural. It was formed in a hill, and it was made operational by a much higher technology than was used on Terra. The procedures were much different. The current fire crystal was man-made of silicon dioxide. It was first formed in the shape of a sphere. It took days to create the high temperatures and was considerable difficulty to sustain them for the formation of the crystal. It was of considerable difficulty to recreate the enormous size of the crystal. It had to be housed within a giant vacuum to create the needed pressure to instill crystallization. While still in spherical form, an inert gas mixture was injected into its base. The bubble then rose with the liquid structure. As the structure began to solidify, the gas mixture became trapped. This was a very lengthy process, taking many days in constant surveillance. Once it was in solid form, it was then carefully cut. The facets of the crystal were very important to the activity of the crystal. Each facet represented a source of energy within the crystal, creating a beam from which the energy could be tapped. The crystal was then introduced to a magnetic field. They continually escalated the power density of the field, which would increase also within the bubble. It was this that created the blood-red ooze of power within the crystal. After months of what seemed like unending work, it was time to see if they had indeed created it. They had constructed an airship for their test flight. All of Pisidia sat anxiously awaiting the results. If it did work, their lives would become changed. They had been living in a primitive state since the destruction without the fire crystal. There had been no generation of energy for such conveniences as lighting, appliances, television, or any of the former luxuries. This would enrich all of their lives. Everyone had their dreams. Helm dreamt of his increase in power. Amaziah thought only of the imported luxuries it would bring. And for Oren and I, we thought only of the expedition that had left so long ago. We longed to hear the stories of their adventure and to make some progress with the bearing of the records. Before going to the lab that day, Etude went to the temple to pray. Miram found her kneeling, her head bowed within one of the cubicles that lined the perimeter of the temple of sacrifice. She gently put her hand on her shoulder. Etude looked up and smiled. "You have made a great contribution," Miram told her. Etude said nothing, but nodded. Her face took a serious expression. "Do not worry about what-ifs. If you are not responsible for others' actions, you are not responsible for others' actions. You are only accountable for your own." "I forget you read minds," she smiled. "I cannot help how I feel. You can direct your thoughts to the positive aspects of this great achievement. Do not dwell on the negative. It is a waste of time, and besides, you deserve to feel good, not bad." Etude stood. "You're right. Thank you. I must go meet Oron. He will be there at the airfield to take off, or whatever. Now feel good, not only for today, but about yourself. I know that Oron has missed you these many months since you were working so hard. Perhaps now that this job is over, you can spend more time together. Put your thoughts in the happiness you will share together." "I will." She gave Miram a kiss on the cheek. "Thank you again." I had joined Oron at the airfield. It took my friend Pizarro with me. His eyes were wide in amazement. Lemurians never explored technology like us Atlanteans, and although aware of their existence, he had never seen a flying ship before. It was beautifully painted and resembled my old appearance and physical shape. Watching as the craft was maneuvered up into the clouds, I experienced old feelings, longing to join it. It had been a long time since I had even thought of flying. I think even Oron longed to take a quick flight, but because of the position of the things in society now, not even an utterance of my former self dared be mentioned. Pizarro screamed with excitement as the shell which enclosed the fire crystal opened. Its fiery entrails produced an equally luminous red light shooting out towards the base of the great bird's tail. Within minutes, the huge bird shot off into the distance. The airfield was filled with people throwing flowers in the air, singing and dancing. The ship was sent to another city, and then it returned to the rejoicing crowds of Alta. Pizarro insisted upon seeing the ship up close, so the three of us fought our way through the crowd to get to see the big bird. Oron spoke to the pilot while Pizarro crawled inside, pretending to be a pilot. I, for some reason, was caught with a tremendous sense of foreboding. I had no reason to feel that way, which unnerved me. I insisted that Pizarro return with me to the temple and bid farewell to Oron, who was immersed in his conversation with the pilot. When we returned home, I saw Miram was all right and that everything was fine. I couldn't put my finger on the feelings of foreboding that filled my inner being. Miram, who read my thoughts, was not contributing any speculation on what it was one way or another. I would not think of it again for many months. Helem and Amaziah were congratulating each other on their success as Etuitude began to leave the lab. Helem saw her leaving and stopped her. "Thank you, Etuitude. We couldn't have done it without you." "Thanks for your recognition." She started to the door when he stopped her. "Wait. Where are you going?" "I've finished my job here. I'm going home. I've done all I can to do for you." Helem came up to her, putting his face right up to hers. "Have I been so bad to work with? You have other projects here." Etuitude couldn't stand his foul breath any more than she could stand him. She quickly bolted out the door, calling back to him, "Yes and no, I don't. Goodbye." When Oron returned home, he found Etuitude waiting for him. She had prepared many of his favorite dishes and had them spread out on the table as if for a feast. "What is all of this?" Oron exclaimed. "A welcome home." She put her arms around him and gave him a kiss. "I've missed you so much. And all this time I thought you were too busy to miss me." "I'll never be too busy to miss you." Oron gave her another kiss on the cheek. "Congratulations. I'm so glad that it all worked out." He felt her withdraw. "What is it?" "Nothing. I know that you had mixed feelings about this, but I'm proud of you, and I think that your contribution is just that, a contribution. So I don't want to see this serious face again. Do you understand?" Etuitude gave him a smile. "That's better. Now can we enjoy this marvelous-looking food?" "Of course. From now on, my only accomplishment is to make you happy. I'm not returning to the lab again." In the next couple years, she did just that. Oron and I were very busy working on the records. There still remained a lot to be prepared and recorded. Pizarro, whom I had become very close to, was a delight and offered his assistance enthusiastically. He would do many of the same chores that Oron and I would do as children. Etuitude became very domestic at that time and would prepare great meals for Oron, Miram, and the boys and myself. Since Miram was still kept very busy with her assistance to the things and the Lemurians, who continued to come to this temple of sacrifice in search of freedom and refuge, Etuitude looked after Elchi like he was her own. Those years were wonderful. Oron and I looked forward to our family evenings. Etuitude prepared the dinner, Miram led us in meditation, and we would enjoy the meal and play with the children. It was like one big family. Sometimes we would take our food over to the temple tunnels and share it with the Lemurians and the things that remained there. Some had escaped to other remote areas of ATLATIA to start their lives over. Others waited for the day that we had been waiting for, the day when the expedition would return, so that those of the one could begin again. The Atlatians worked quickly after the fire crystal was operational again to construct more air and water ships for travel. After a couple years, there was moderate trade commencing between ATLATIA and foreign countries. One day, when a water ship beamed into Alta's great port, it brought back a visitor from one of the expeditions. It was Atlaeus. The first place we went was the Hall of Records. He knew that he would find Oren and I there. We were busy as usual. It had been many years since we had seen our friend, and now sporting a beer, he was almost totally unrecognizable. Pizarro, now a teenager, was the one to announce that a man was there to see us. We both went to meet the man. Oran, thinking this was a stranger, asked him how we could help him. I knew instantly from his eyes that it was ATLATIA. ATLATIA? Is that you hiding behind that hair? I asked. Oran was dumbfounded. ATLATIA? Yes, my friend, it is me. You both look older too, I might add. We all had a good laugh and commented on our changed appearances. It was like the answer to our prayers, which had seemed an impossibility. Even the institutions of trade, it had been months with no word. We had almost given up of hope of hearing from them again. In fact, we had envisioned them being killed by the barbarian tribes or being killed during the destruction. Now, proof of the fact that the expedition had made it stood before us. We took ATLATIA to Oran's house for celebration. We were joined by others of the One. The house was jammed with people, food, and lots of talking. Everyone wanted to find out what had happened. Finally, we tried to gain some semblance to the gathering, and all sat around ATLATIA as he told us of his journey. We arrived safely in Sade just days after we left Alta. The people of Sade were surprised to see us coming to stay. They were friendly, but suspicious of our ways. The Sadians are a beautiful race of black ebony skin and hair. Pizarro cut in. Those people have black skin? Yes, ATLATIA continues. They are very different from us. They worship idols and behave barbarically, sacrificing animals as a tribute to their gods. Some of the people are open to listening to the concepts of the One, but many are guarded against anything that contradicts their belief. This was a major obstacle when we first arrived. Because of our separate beliefs, we were unable to communicate. And I don't mean their language, although we did have some difficulty conversing in their tongue. We became almost a separate civilization within another. We settled outside the city of Sade. We were most intent upon finding a burial site for our records, Oran. I was hoping you would tell us you'd found a suitable place for them, Oran said. We traveled in small expeditions from our settlement. We decided against Sade because of the conflict with the natives on our spiritual belief. Plus, it being too close to a major sea, we didn't want to leave the records buried below the water. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. We hung on his every word. Ituitud asked him, "How were you affected by the great destruction that occurred here?" We experienced rain of immense proportions. It also created a great chasm within the countries running approximately 200 miles to the south of the port. With the rains, this created a great river. For the people of Sade, this was a blessing. This opened up an easier mode of travel from one part of the country to the other. They only had very primitive transportation, to which we soon became accustomed. It was one of these small boats that we were transported to the area, which we feel was a preordained home for our records. Everyone was on the edge of their seat by now. "Don't keep us in suspense any longer. Tell us about it," I anxiously urged him. ATLATIA smiled as if he loved to watch our curious faces, impatiently waiting for the news. "I'm coming to it. Don't be impatient, Esser." Pizarro tugged on my robe and in a very mature fashion reprimanded me. "Yes, Esser, don't be impatient. He's getting to it." Everyone laughed, breaking us away from the intense concentration on the story. ATLATIA continued. "As I said, we took one of these small boats down the river. They were manned by 4 natives who propelled us down the river. By the use of great poles they would push to the bottom. When we would get to the place that we thought might be it, we would come ashore and walk inland and find a spot to meditate. With the help of priest Rata, we were able to determine if it was the right place or not. It took us many days with these primitive ships and going on foot once we landed. Finally, when we thought we were going to have to return to Sade for more provisions, we were informed that we were there. Had we walked a couple of miles more to the west, all would have been known for sure. It was an incredible feeling. The energy of the ground permeated our every cell. It brought the troop of 12 to tears. Despite the fact that we had no provisions, we decided to stay. We held meditation services. It was very special. "What does it look like there?" Oran asked. "It is mountains of granite surrounded by an oasis of beautiful fertile ground. We decided to return to Sade and bring not only provisions, but our entire ship full of goods so that we could settle there and prepare for the burial of the records." He pulled out a map. "Here is Sade, and here is where the record shall be buried. It couldn't be more solid ground. This is a prospective design of what we have chosen to not only mark the spot of our records, but to act as guardian to them." He pulled out another piece of paper with the design of a sphinx on it. "We have chosen this half man, half beast, as a reminder of those poor entities who have become trapped in these embodiments, and the prejudice that has existed against poor individuals. It will be a symbol to the world to inform them that no more prejudice against our fellow entities, no matter what their physical appearance, will be tolerated." I couldn't help it. A tear fell from my eyes. Their gesture meant a great deal to me, more than I could express. Miram sensed this. She comfortingly put her arm around me. All the memories of my former self flooded into my brain. I would never forget the prejudices against me then. I was free from them now, but there were so many that weren't, who were being chastised for their existence. Miram informed ATLATIA, "You don't know how great a gesture it is. Since you have left, things are not only being beaten and treated worse than animals. Hellam and his friends have taken over their minds by implanting devices within their brains so that they will have no will of their own. We have been secretly removing them at the temple. It has been horrible. Not only are the things the only beings treated as slaves, but the Lemurians as well. We have set up shelters for them in the temple tunnels. Some have escaped to more desolate grounds, but there are many men, women, and children who need to have a home. Perhaps they could return with you to Sade." ATLATIA smiled. "You were always one step ahead of me, Miram. That was going to be my next area of discussion. We need to organize supplies and people for the construction of not only the Sphinx, but a great pyramid. The pyramid will stand on the energy source that lives there and will help in the alignment of energy for Terra." Orin anxiously butted in. "So let's start organizing. My friend, we need experts, designers, engineers, mathematicians, metal and stone workers. There is much work to do. We have some people of such expertise in Sade, but we need more." "Let me go!" Pizarro jumped up. "I can help." ATLATIA smiled. "What can you do?" "I shall navigate the ship." All laughed. "You can navigate the ship?" ATLATIA asked him with a serious face. "No, not yet, but I shall learn." I patted him on the head. "I'm sure you will, but he needs people who are knowledgeable now." Pizarro's face dropped. "I'm sure we can use you somewhere else if you wouldn't mind doing something other than navigating." Pizarro was serious. "I'll do anything." "Good. I'll write your name down. You're number 1 on the list." Pizarro was thrilled and screamed with excitement. Miram stood up. "There are certain priests that shall expedite the construction with their telekinetic abilities. I would like to represent them by saying that they are ready for the voyage to Sade." "Thank you, Miram. I should like to ask you a favor as well. I would like you to return to Sade and bless the ground before the preparation of construction begins." "It was a request from those who remain at Sade," ATLATIA said. "I would be honored, thank you." For some reason I felt a pain in my heart. I knew that it was for the good of the project, and that I would be proud and happy that she was going, but instead I felt pain. In an instant I saw what I felt come over Orin's face. Etude also volunteered her services. "ATLATIA, are you in need of a good scientist?" "We would honor your presence. As I said, it is very primitive there. You'll be a great asset to us," responded ATLATIA. Orin appeared nervous. He turned to her. "I'm afraid our work is not ready for me to take the records yet." "Don't worry. We will be together soon. You know that I will love you wherever I am, right here or 1,000 miles away." Orin did not want her to go. "What about Elchi? He has come to rely on you for so much." "He'll be fine. I'm sure Gomo and Sigun wouldn't mind looking after him while Miram and I are away. Please don't worry." She patted his hand. Both Orin and I were becoming tense and uncomfortable. Although we had work to do, the thought of being separated from our spouses made us ache. These last few years had been ideal, and the thought of them being away from us pulled sharply at our hearts. I knew that there was nothing I could say to Miram to keep her, nor would I ever prevent her from such an adventure. Having her able to read my thoughts often bothered me, especially when I would prefer that she didn't know what I was thinking, and this is one of those times. She didn't say a word, but kissed my hand. ATLATIA was now ready to receive volunteers. People flocked around him to award him their services. He shouted into the crowd, "We shall leave in 3 days." People jumped for joy, and Pizarro whistled his cheers. Etude and Miram joined the others in the chatter about the trip. I turned to Oron. Well, it looks as though we had better hurry up and finish these records. Oron didn't say anything. He just stared into space. His thoughts were not on the records. He was thinking of Etude, and all the records were what this was all about. I myself could only think of being separated from Miram. After everyone had gone, Oron and Etude cleaned up the mess from the night's festivities. Oron accidentally dropped a pitcher on the floor. He bent down to pick it up. Etude came over to help. You know I'll be back soon. He didn't say anything. He just continued cleaning up the broken pieces. Please understand, I need to do this. I failed in my attempts to save ATLATIA before, and I never really felt good about the institution of the fire crystal again. Please understand, begged Etude. Oron took her in his arms. I understand, I do. Being separated from you just breaks my heart. If only I could go and be with you. You have a major contribution to make. You must complete the records. I know. I will work diligently so that we may be together again. Soon. Tears welled up in his eyes. I don't know what I would do if I ever lost you. You will never lose me. Miram and I hardly spoke when we returned to the temple. She knew the thoughts going in my mind and chose not to comment on them. Finally, as we lay cuddled up with one another, I spoke. I love you very much. And I you. I savored every moment from then on with her. I wanted to remember every feature in her face, how she smelled, and the sound of her voice. I wanted to be able to bring her as close to me as possible, although she would be thousands of miles away.